The one phone that brought Motorola back into its game was the Moto G, and today we are looking at the third variant of such a phone. And Motorola calls this the BFF. Does it really stand up to that title? Let's find out. This is GK from TechPP.com, and this is the detailed review of the Moto G third generation, or the Moto G 2015. Let's spend some time on the design aspects because that is one of the key changes that Motorola has done with this Moto G. The screen size stays the same, 5 inches, IPS LCD display, but nothing fancy here, no QHD or anything of that sort. But what changes is the back. We saw the matte finish back in the Moto G second generation, but this one has a very cool texture on this and doesn't slip off your hand. The one thing that you would notice is this portion here. There's a strip that is also customizable along with the back panel here itself. The dimple gets a little shallow but then retains its key identity. Overall, this gives a more elegant look and feel, at the same time bringing in improvements and also allowing for customizations at different levels with the Moto Maker. Onto the right, we have a very good high quality metal buttons, the power rocker and the volume rocker. On the top, we have the 3.5mm jack and the microphone. There's nothing on the other side, while at the bottom you have the USB port. Now, on the top and the bottom, we do have these things which act as the speaker grill and the audio output as well. We have a 5 megapixel camera at the front, which is again an improvement, and a 30 megapixel camera, which is a huge bump when compared to the Moto G. This really stood up to the claims that Motorola made, so we'll look at that in a bit, and also the dual tone LED flash. One of the things that we observed in the Moto G was that the screen had a very warm tint to it when compared to the other phones. It's almost the same here, but there's a slight improvement, except for the fact that the screen gives you a much cooler look. The screen is also protected by Gorilla Glass 3 protection, so that's a good one. So overall, the screen comes off as good, and also gives good viewing angles as well, even in the daylight. So coming to the interiors, this phone is powered by a Snapdragon 410 64-bit chipset, and that is a quad-core chipset. And the other aspects, we have the dual SIM ability here, and both of the SIMs can run on 4G. And this variant that we have here is 16 gig variant, and there's also 8 gig variant that comes. And supporting that is a 2 GB RAM, and also the micro SD slot that allows for expanding the memory up to 32 GB. The battery itself is not removable, but it's coming at 2470 mAh, and it turned out to be quite sufficient in our tests. A bit on that later. So let's put this back and get back to the interiors. So this phone is powered by a near stock Android Lollipop 5.1.1, and Motorola is very good at pushing in the updates as and when they come from Google. So overall, the performance is liquid smooth, though one can consider the fact that it's just Snapdragon 410 chipset. But if you were to negate that fact, or blissfully be not mindful of that, you can. It's very hard to say that this is running on such a mid-range chipset, because though there are multiple applications opened, there was never a lag, never a stutter, and it ran so smooth. So though this is a near stock Android, Motorola always brings in some of the meaningful applications that it has, and things like the adaptive display, where you just try to pick up your phone and it already shows you alerts where you have unread notifications and things like that, and many other default apps that come with the phone, which makes so much of sense. So things like the Moto Alert and different applications like that are very useful. So one of the questions that people usually will have is this phone going to stand up to heavy gaming? So there are certain games that we put this phone into test with, games like Asphalt, Real Racing 3 and Angry Birds over an elongated period of time, as much as nearly 60 to 70 minutes. There were no indications of heating. There were occasional stutters, but never a condition where it was struggling. Of course, if you take the phone to really high-end gaming, it would start struggling, and that is owing to the processor that is being used. Coming to the next important aspect that people usually look for in any range of smartphones, the camera. So again, the camera app is pretty simple here. One of the major improvements that we've seen is how snappy the camera is. You tap on any region that you want to take, see how fast it just shoots, processes, and puts it into the gallery. There's another aspect that Motorola has brought in, which is being able to adjust your exposure by rotating on the circle here. We've seen this in MIUI, but this one is really intuitive. You change the focus, you change the exposure. This is really neat, and this is something that we really loved. In terms of the other things, you can try to zoom in by merely swiping up and down, zoom out or zoom in, and there are also other settings down here. You can change it into the HDR mode or change the flash to turn it on or turn it off. There's also an option here where you can disable the tap to click. You have to manually click the button. There's also a night mode and video and so on and so forth. So all of this is laid in a very simple circle here that you can toggle across. So overall, using the camera is very simple and very snappy. So let's look at some of the samples that we've taken. In daylight, the pictures come out really great. This actually surprised us with some of the pictures that it took. So let me show you some samples. So if you see, the depth of field here is handled very well. Even if we were to zoom, it does retain the details very well. But of course, if you try to zoom in more, you'll see some noise, but it does give you a very good feel. The colors were true to life. There were no gimmicks that the Moto G is trying to make with oversaturation and things like that. This is again an indoor picture. Now came off really good. This was another picture that really surprised us. If you see again the focus, the depth of field, the color, and the details that it retains even when you zoom in. So these are all very good things about the camera. And even in terms of the video, the camera does very well, and the selfie camera also, the 5 megapixel camera is decent enough, but of course when you take it in low light, it falls apart a bit, but that is what it is. So overall, the camera is very impressive as compared to the Moto G, and one would just simply love it. So we clicked a lot of pictures in different environments and different situations. We'll upload them to a Flickr album that we'll have, and we'll share the link, and you should see that in the description down below. So overall, the camera is very impressive. Coming to other aspects of the performance, on the Antutu benchmarks, the phone scored 24,746, which is not a bad score at all considering the SoC specifications that it has. Of course, we did mention that there were some minor lags and occasional stutters when we gamed for an elongated period of time, but the good thing is there was no heating. Coming to the battery performance, this really impressed us. We consistently got a screen on time of somewhere between 5 hours to 6 hours depending on the Wi-Fi versus the 3G connection that we had, but mostly 50% was on Wi-Fi and 50% was on 3G, and if you're getting this sort of a screen on time, this is really impressive. So again, kudos to the battery performance as well. The other aspect is Motorola claims some sort of a quick charge on this. Don't even expect anything there. The charging will take somewhere close to 2 hours, and there was no quick charging ability that we found. So that was the battery performance. So overall, you'll be left with very less to complain if you're a normal average user where the usage pattern is not really heavy. Meaning you're doing an hour of calls and clicking some 10 to 50 pictures on the phone, and occasional gaming of something that is really not very heavy, not heavier than Asphalt 8. And if you're playing for half an hour or 30 minutes and listening to music, which by the way, the output of the speakers is very good, and the earphones that comes along with the phone also is of very good quality. We usually see that companies do try to cut down the costs by shipping in cheap earphones, but not the case with Motorola here. So the audio output is also good. So you'll enjoy the gaming, you'll enjoy the sound output, you'll enjoy multimedia, and you'll enjoy the overall performance of the phone. And that is what the Moto G 2015 is all about. It's going to impress you in many different cases. Coming to the price aspect, this comes at 12,999. Of course, there is another lower variant which comes with just 1 GB RAM and 8 gigs of internal memory. Of course, the performance of that will not be as great as this one, just because this one has an extra gig of RAM. So overall, it's a bang for buck. The closest competition that we have here is Asus Zenfone 2 Laser, and there could be the Lenovo K3 Note and others, but the Xiaomi Mi 4i as well. But the Xiaomi Mi 4i has a more powerful processor in the form of Snapdragon 615. But overall, doesn't matter which one of these phones you would pick up, one or the other department, you would be happy, because each one of them come with a key selling proposition. If the Zenfone 2 Laser comes with the laser autofocus ability, this one comes with the IPX7 certification, and you can dip it into water up to 1 meters, up to 30 minutes. And we're going to demonstrate that as well, which is very interesting to see. So any of these phones that you're going to pick up, there's very little less to complain, but Moto G really stands out given the fact that the UI is so fluid, and the other things like intuitive things in the software, like if you double chop the phone, it's going to turn on the flashlight here. If you're going to twist it, it's going to turn on the camera, and different things like this really make it a BFF. Yes, that's what it is. In my usage of this phone, I really fell in love with it, because it's gonna alert you on a timely basis. It's gonna give you a very good battery performance, and you can carry it in rain or sunshine. It's gonna be with you. So that was about the Moto G3, and hope you guys love this. We highly recommend this phone, and you would not be disappointed if you're a stock Android fan. Until the next one, this is GK from TechPP.com signing off. Bye bye.